Hi, welcome. Glad that you could join us again for another week of class. I have Dr. Diana Howard with me here today, and she has graciously agreed to share a little bit about her own personal history, some experiences she's seen within her years within gifted education, and a leader within gifted education, as well as some focused especially on literacy and the arts with gifted students that we serve. A little bit of an introduction that I never tire of sharing, and I think Diana doesn't even necessarily remember the whole story because she's helped so many people over the years. But I was a principal at a small private school, and she didn't even know me, but I was looking to do a staff in-service and train my staff more and my teachers more, and we had, little to no money, and she graciously came out and did an awesome in-service that I still know people that still talk about it,
goodness.
and it's been over a decade. So, I thought, wow, and there's a lot of awesome people in the field, and Dr. Howard is one of them. So, yeah. So if you want to just start with, for anyone who hasn't met you before, a little bit of your own history, that would be great.
Well, I was a child raised all over the United States in poverty, but had a teacher mother who made sure that we went to the library every Saturday so that there were always books that enriched my brothers and my minds. I think we were both gifted kids, but at a time when there really wasn't anything called gifted or any differentiation of what we did. I always just had the old desks that lifted up, and underneath I had a good book. Mm-hmm. So I kept myself going. And when I graduated from college, which I started out in nursing and decided that wasn't challenging me at all, and went into education and then joined the Peace Corps. So I met my husband in the Peace Corps. We were one of the early groups, and we served 2 years in Montevideo, Uruguay. Wonderful country, dear people. We lived near a huge slum and fell in love with everybody there. They became our family. And I had my first baby there, so we were really beloved. Mm. They didn't want us to take that baby away. So I worked with children there, starting a children's library. They lived in tin shacks, and never was a book destroyed, ever. Mm. They came back just fine. There were no libraries or anything that would have served those children other than in our little house. So after the Peace Corps, went to Syracuse and got a degree, master's in library science, because I am really a book lover. And as I was serving in private and public schools as a librarian, I came to see very bright children learning to dislike learning, which I couldn't understand because I love learning and always had. And so I got involved in courses in gifted education at DU, and they told me no, I couldn't just get another master's. I had to get a PhD while I was raising my 4 children. So anyway, I have spent a lifetime serving gifted kids, teaching adults about gifted children. I was very involved with the Dabrowski information about the sensitivities of highly gifted children and believe in that with all my heart. I think I relieved a lot of parent fears about the sensitivities of their children because they're there and they need to be honored. Mm-hmm. So I'm now, after many, many, many years in gifted education, after starting Polaris, which is a highly gifted site in DPS, and then starting an art school, a K-12 art school at Koonsmiller, wonderful school. I believe in the arts as passionately as I believe in any other piece of education to meet the needs of gifted children. So now I am about to retire, and I don't think I'll leave doing things with gifted children, but I won't be in the formal day-to-day education scene, right?
I know within all these years in Denver Public Schools, you've seen obviously many things change, some good, some bad, probably some in between. But what are some things that you've seen that have improved over these last 20, 30 years? And what are some things that you feel we could take some more steps towards in terms of everything,
Right.
but certainly including equity and things like that
Well,
nature?
equity is vitally important to me, having been in the Peace Corps, believing that we need to serve all children. And that's why I first came into DPS to start an inner city gifted school. It isn't as diverse now, which is sad. But I think for many, many years across this country, we worked on trying to create diverse and equitable identification. That is a positive, because I don't think schools in the past really focused on really bright children. They just always assumed that we would do well, which many of us do and some do not.
Many don't, yeah.
Right. So that's been a good thing, that gifted education has expanded to more and more schools. And I know with CAGT, I've been down at the legislature many years trying to get money for gifted. And there is money for gifted. Probably not what we would love, but there is funding. And that makes a focus that should be honored. I think building the identification systems has improved over the years until the state has made it more on academic achievement, which is very difficult in diverse populations.
I like the universal screeners. I think about back in the day when it was just based on teacher nominations or parent nominations, and how many kiddos that we lost. In the schools that I work mostly with, I'm always saying gifted, talented, talent pool. Like, look at these traits. Let's serve these students whether or not they're formally identified, because our identification process has improved, but it's got a ways to go still, and it's going to miss a lot of these kids if we don't act more inclusively and gifted, talented, talent pool. Who are these other kiddos that might not have all the data we're looking for?
Another concern that I have right now in education is that whether we identify the children or not, they identify themselves, in my mind, but teachers are so under the gun to use curriculum and be on such and such a page and such a day and under strict supervision that I wonder if they truly can do any differentiation and really make it different and challenging and rigorous for gifted kids. I don't see much of that in the school that I'm in. So I feel like they're overburdened.
Oh, it's the doing more with less, I think, is a pattern now. And so much of it I see, just even looking at a school from one year to the next, so much hinges on the one or two leaders or the one or two key players, right? In terms of the how much within, even if there's particular curriculum that's being used, how much freedom individual teachers are given.
Not much.
Sometimes. I like the question of, magic wand, if you could create this for all students, what would your ideal school look like?
Well, Polaris. I have to be honest, it was a little marvelous place, and still is, where we use themes so that all of the curriculum weaves into wonderful thematic learning, and the arts are woven intricately into that. I visited my school a week or so ago, and it's still full of excited children. That's what I don't see at every school. Children who are so engaged in topics that they can study in depth that they never lose interest in learning. One of my grandsons was so shy that doing reports on his projects was really difficult, and there he could have his father tape him giving the report and then stand beside the monitor.
It's another way to differentiate,
and play
right?
his video. And he's still, as out of college now, is still.
It's not his thing.
He's shy.
Yeah.
So that's a school that differentiates perfectly for every child, and I believe in that. But I also believe in rich libraries, and I picked all the books in my schools.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever the themes were, I would make sure that the library held a rich abundance of books around the topic, and reference books around the topic, and beautiful artwork around the topic, and the biography sections that were very diverse and covered all of the people of color who have done marvelous things in the world and that children might not know about. So, and when I started Polaris as a principal, you were able to choose your own curriculum. So I could add math clear up through trigonometry for those wonderful math children who needed a lot more than elementary math. And social studies, the wonderful series of the history of us, of U.S. That is phenomenal set of books for American history. So now I don't see that. I don't see rich, wonderful curriculum in most places, which is sad to me.
I've really enjoyed, and I think there's pros and cons to, of course, every kind of type of school model, be it district managed or magnet or charter. One of the things that, as someone that's worked in charters and works with charters now, that I do like is a bit more of that freedom, right?
Yes.
Where there's tremendous diversity, and I say, different kids can have different needs or niches filled. Right. So I like that I can, at least, you don't have to have a lot of money, right? I can talk with the family and say, tell me about your child. Right. And I could talk to the child, tell me what your interests, what's important to you, what are your values, what are you looking for? And then I can sift through that, and I can talk with the other people in my department as well and say, this is what they're looking for. What might be some things that they want to look at, which is cool.
I try to help children learn to advocate for themselves, too, the older ones. If they have passions in certain areas, I believe teachers would let them pursue studies if they would present the idea that the teacher didn't have to come up with, but that they could guide what they should be doing.
Well, and I think that we can learn from special education there, where there's a lot of books and guidance on how to self-advocate. Yeah. And when you have a child with an advanced learning plan, they have to know how to, all children need to know how to do that, but also when they know that they have this plan to say, this is what I'm identified in, this is what I need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know my son, he's still little, and when someone asked him what he wanted for his plan, he said something like learning multiplication. Well, because he just was thinking okay, identified math, it has to be this basic math thing. And I said, but are you excited about that? Is that what you want to do? And he's like, no. Well, then why'd you say that? So then we had to talk about,
the richness
what
could be
could be really cool to do with math. So,
right.
Thinking on the literacy line, one of the reasons why we have literacy as a major discussion for this week as well is because it's always key, but it's such a big part of many gifted children's lives in a whole host of ways. Can you speak a little bit to literacy connected to, I guess, gifted children and what you've seen there?
Well, all my little groups that I see at Place Bridge, I do both hands-on learning, puzzles, marvelous, cute qubits, and 3D building things, and all the things that they do not have in classrooms, and math that's very different, and reading. And we always read Newbery books. I don't see them being used, and I don't so much care the level of a child's reading. I never would go on that. I want them to have books that touch their hearts, that get them involved with a character and help them see heroes in literature. I have a squeaky little dog down here that's wanting attention.
We'll have to show him on the video in a minute. Does he ever go up on the couch? He could be right here.
He could. You want to come up? Anyway, so, right now I'm doing Call It Courage with my 5th graders, because that is a marvelous cultural book as well as a hero story, an old Newbery. I'm doing Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, lovely Asian and folklore from Asia woven into the story, and with my fourth graders. And I can't even think all I'm doing, but I just really focus on Newbery books because they are the finest written books for children.
And how does that, I mean, obviously there's a variety of ways you could do that, but how does that normally work for you? You pull the children, are you reading to them and having a rich discussion, or what's a group, a literacy group
all
look
of
like
the
for you?
children that I teach are immigrants and refugees, so they're all learning language. They can read English quite well. But I will often stop as we read around, so it isn't just me reading. And even the first graders today, they were good readers. So I stop every once in a while with a word, and they don't know what they don't know what it means. And I almost always use books from other cultures because these children are from all over the world. So it just touches who they are, I think, to see wonderful writing about their cultures too. So we do talk about it. When we did The Door in the Wall, which is set in Britain, I've been to England a number of times, and I could bring pictures of all kinds of things that were into this historical story of a boy and a girl who save a village. That kind of thing they love. They'll meet me in the hall and say, "Oh, I just love that story." And one of them did that today. So when you use really wonderful books, not just books that are at their level, I don't see what they can love about simple things, simple writing that really doesn't have any impact on their lives. I want books to have an impact on their lives, and they're such marvelous ones to use in that way. So yes, we read, we discuss, and then all my little groups are divided between the reading and other things that I bring for them to do.
I was thinking of a couple things, the links to the arts, and then making sure that we're getting to the higher levels of, say, Bloom's taxonomy or those depth and complexity cards as tools. Not that we have to use those cards, but how do you make sure that you're keeping the conversation rich and deep?
Well, I ask really rigorous questions so that they have to think, because they aren't asked to think very often. So that is not hard to do. And we do weave the arts in as well. We do some artistic things along with books that we're reading that have something that would relate, especially the Chinese things. And A Single Shard is set in Korea, and they learn about the historic vases, designs on the vases that are gorgeous and so forth. So I bring all of that in, and that's what rich learning is, to put all of these things together and not have it be just reading. That means nothing. And I get them debating with each other if I can. That's high level. Why? Why do you believe that? I didn't see that. Come to some kind of coordination of what we see and believe in what we're reading. Good. It's not hard.
Very good. I was thinking of, I might show a couple examples of
I'll show
books.
you.
Here's the doggy that we've been petting down on the ground.
Show you who's squeaking down here.
Hi.
His name is Piper.
He's checking me out. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, he loves to give kisses.
Mine does, too. I'll pause in a moment just for a few examples that we can share as far as a couple pieces of literature. But last words of advice or thoughts that you would have for encouragement or, things like that for people that are just getting their feet wet in education, or a lot of the people in these courses have been in education for a while, but they're new to gifted education. Right. So it's a whole other layer of learning that's happening now.
Just enjoy them. They are such wonderful, wonderful children to work with. Unique. And reveled in their uniqueness, how different they could be, and the passions that they had, and the intense sensitivities that they exhibited. Often I find little boys, especially in my groups, who just cannot sit on the chair.
Mm-hmm.
They are all over everywhere, and that's fine. I mean, we don't have to be strict. They can be getting everything and circling a table the whole time you are all doing something, but usually they're begging me to bring back the hands-on learning because they get nothing of that, and they love to design with the things that I have and build and create, and I will usually make them start with idea cards that come with whatever the 3D pattern play is, but then they always want to create their own. And that's what's marvelous about these children. They are going to be the innovators of the future, and they need to be honored as such, as unique creatures. So to me, it's the most exciting part of education, is to work with these wonderfully diverse, deep thinking, challenging children. Yeah.
Great.
Love it. Just keep loving it.
Good. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
So we brought a few examples out of
wonderful books
to share.
Full of beautiful art. I believe children from babyhood should have beautiful pictures, not silly pictures. So Thomas Locker has many, many gorgeous books, and this one is about home, different kinds of home. Now think about how you could use that for writing, for creating inspiring writing. I always think about little children being asked to write first thing every day, and they get up and put on their clothes and brush their teeth, and they really haven't got anything to write about. If you use beautiful, inspiring books and poetry, then you've given them something to write about. You've inspired what they might possibly write about. And this is about homes across our country, and it's beautiful.
And the diversity of poems and homes and authors.
And Eloise Greenfield. I mean, it's diverse authors and poets as well. This is another book I love, and I always take stones. The children love stones. And this is Leo Leone, which is just amazing. Whoever knew that Leone ever did a book on stones.
And beautiful artwork, right?
And just special. And so when they can hold a stone in their hand or a shell or whatever, again, to talk about that. Children learning English, how to inspire and learn beautiful language.
I was thinking of, related to this, sometimes with children we would do kindness stones or calming stones. So finding a stone also to paint or to do something beautiful with for calming.
Absolutely.
Or to just beautify the playground.
And one of the lines in the story is that if a stone has a white line all around it, and I have several that I show them, then they get to put their finger around it and make a wish.
Ah.
And if we're using classic literature like Aesop's Fables, I want the artwork to be extraordinary. You can't see artwork like this and not have it touch your life. So I don't know if I'm
I was looking at the author and illustrator is Helen Ward.
Yeah. Gorgeous books, and she has several as well. And I love folk tales and have a whole collection from around the world. And I love to have children act things out as well. So these are fun African tales and Caribbean tales that are delightful. And they're short so that they could be easily acted out kind of spontaneously. You wouldn't have to have lots of preparation or a script.
I had that was a fun thing to act out the stories we were reading. Yeah.
They love it. And for little people, I love to have stories that have the rhythm of language. And this one, I just have to read you a line, just so you know. This is African, Swahili. Nagidi, Kufulu, Lala Salama, birds, rhinoceros, peace, sleep well. Salama, Sawalagranti, peace, gazelle. Gorgeous to touch their lives. And I love hero stories for children because they don't often get to feel like heroes. And this little boy works and works and works to earn money to buy his mama a bicycle so that she doesn't have to carry the heavy load of vegetables to the market on her head. Trying to see if I can find a picture of her carrying her burdens. I have been in Ghana and seen women with these huge baskets of food on their heads. Here's a little boy counting his little coins that he earns. There's his mama with the big load. Beautiful story because he does overcome a lot of things and succeed. And I don't have a lot of charter books here, but Have Magic by Eager is a whole series of wonderful magic books. I particularly love this one because every time the children make a wish, they get half of a wish. Now, this is a very high-level book because the kids have to figure out as they're reading, oh, what would half of that wish be? And it's kind of amazing, it's amazing. And it could be problematic. So it's a wonderful series for gifted kids. But there are so many, and the Newbery books are just extraordinary for gifted readers.
Recommendations for teachers beyond that as well. So you certainly circle time or whole group readings, small group readings. But if they go to the local library, what are some of the good, besides Newbery, are there things that you would recommend that they ask for when they're looking for high quality books and good illustrations as well?
In Denver public libraries, they even have printed lists for every grade level, but they also have a high level reading list that you have to ask for. It isn't often out. So that's worthwhile knowing that you can get a list of the best. And you can always go on American Library Association website, and they have all kinds of prize-winning books, not just Newbery, but ethnic. I can't think of all of the prize-winning things that they can have, but there are many wonderful books that somebody else who's an expert has suggested as a book that should be used with children.
Very good. Thank you again. I look
welcome.
forward to talking with all of you more this week.